Okay, thanks. Starting my clock. I'm going to talk about Vim today, so I already changed my clothes, as you can see. Just a quick raise your hands. Who is using Vim for development? Okay, that's almost the majority. Who's using traditional graphical IDEs for development? All right, okay, so there are at least 5 people in the room that might be able to learn something here. All the rest, you will probably know what I'm talking about. Where do I come from? So to put this into perspective somehow, I guess when I was 12 or so, I started writing my first program in BASIC, I think, on an Amiga or C64, I can't remember. Later, when the internet arrived at our home, I started doing PHP and using Dreamweaver. At university, they taught us Java, and we used Eclipse. And my first job, I was using C# and Visual Studio for a couple of years. And my second job, I used Python and Wing IDE, which I enjoyed much more, by the way. And last year, when I came here to PyCon, I figured that lots and lots of very smart people were actually using Vim. And I already knew about Vim, obviously, all the time, but I always thought that it's much too complicated and I will never have the time to learn this, and it will kill all my productivity for a month or so. But when I saw that, like, I don't know, guys like Jacob Kaplan-Moss or what are using Vim all the time and are being obviously very productive with it, I thought maybe I should give it a try. So yeah, it was actually PyCon's fault that I started using Vim last year. Yeah. Thanks to you all. Why should you care? I mean, most of you care anyway, so I probably can skip this slide, but obviously Vim is cross-platform, so if you're using Ubuntu, you can use Vim. If you're using macOS, you can use Vim. At home, I've got several laptops, and whatever I feel like, every day I can just open my laptop and my Vim with my Vim config is there, and it just works, and it looks the same and feels the same everywhere. It's standard on most systems, so for example, when I'm doing web development, I SSH into my web servers, and you can be sure that Vim is installed there. So it's quite good when, I don't know, there's an emergency and you have to SSH into the machine. You want to know that you have a good editor on that server that you can use and that you can use in a fast and efficient way, and you don't want to screw up your files because there's an editor that you usually never use because you are used to a graphical IDE, right? It's very fast. I mean, when I remember back the times when I was using Eclipse, the startup time, I was usually leaving my desk and getting a cup of tea or so. Vim is almost instantaneous, obviously. It's good for your health. Sounds funny, but I can testify it's true. When I was programming for like 10 hours a day with a classical IDE and moving back and forth to the arrow keys to navigate in the text file, it actually hurts. And when I started using Vim six or 7 months ago, and I got this idea of using HJKL for the movement only, so I was really like unbinding the arrow keys, and so that I must force myself and hammer it into my muscle memory as fast as possible. Yeah, it actually helps, but because you have your fingers on the central row when you are typing with 10 fingers, they are naturally resting there, and you can just switch to movement mode and use HJKL to move and switch back to insert mode, and you don't have to move your hand at all, and it makes a big fat difference when you work a whole day and when you code a whole day. It's highly customizable, of course. It's great for pair programming, which is something that I want to demonstrate if we have enough time at the end. Yeah, you can work anywhere, anytime. It's interesting when at my last job, we basically had the opportunity to get any hardware that we wanted. So I got myself a big fat 30-inch screen, and I thought at that time that dual screen setup is the most awesome thing in the world, and it makes you so much more productive. But I realized that since I'm using Vim, I'm just like, I use Screen or Tmux as a screen multiplexer, so I can switch between tabs quickly. So suddenly I have lots and lots of windows and desktops at my hand, just a fingertip away. And I have actually not used my second screen for 6 months or what. I don't use it anymore. So I can just go. I can code on an airplane, I can code on a beach, I can code anywhere, and I don't need to have an office environment or something. I just need my laptop and internet connection. Another cool thing that I came up with when I thought about this slide yesterday is you can change jobs and keep your tools. Like maybe today we are coding in Python, maybe tomorrow we are coding in Haskell or C++ or whatever, and probably Vim will have a plugin that suits that new programming language that we will use in the future as well. So we will probably, I mean, if you use Vim, you will probably never have to change your editor ever again. By the way, all this is probably also true for Emacs. I guess they are quite similar, but I've never tried that one. So what it might... Pardon? Okay. So to me, what do I need in order to say that, yes, this thing is a workable IDE? I want to have fast access to all files. I mean, those files that are currently open, maybe in several tabs or splits, and files that I know that are in the project. I want to have a nice color scheme, and I want to be able to change it quickly. I mean, some editors give you a good way to change the color scheme, but maybe there's no standard file format or what, so you cannot really exchange the color scheme easily. It's pretty easy with Vim. I want to have syntax highlighting for all common files that I will use, which are, in my case, Python, HTML, and CSS files, and JavaScript files. I want to have static code analysis. I mean, with Python, everybody knows we have this great PEP8 document, which tells us how to code beautifully, and there are tools for checking, like Flake8 or PyLint or PEP8. There are tools that can check your code against the PEP8 specifications, and they will highlight if there are, like, I don't know, unused imports or unused variables and stuff like that, or there's a space too much or too many empty lines at the end of the file or something like that. Code completion obviously is the main thing why people use IDEs, and I will show you how to get that with Vim. Go to definition is another cool thing. Like when I'm using Django, the framework is so big, it has so many classes and modules, and I usually, although I know it by heart almost, I usually cannot remember what parameters the function accepts, for example. And I don't want to go to Google or to the Django docs all the time and look it up. So just jump to the definition and look at the actual implementation of the method and see what kinds of parameters the function allows. And then you will also see the doc string, and yeah, it's quite useful. Refactoring is something that this setup that I'm going to show is able to do, but I have actually never used it, so I cannot demonstrate it. I somehow feel that using refactoring with a dynamically typed language like Python is, I don't know, a bit, it feels dangerous to me. I wouldn't trust the system. Yeah, debugging, I think it can be done from within Vim, but I usually don't do it. I use IPython and IPDB and just open another terminal window, and I will insert breakpoints using Vim with a short key, and then open another terminal window and start my program and just wait until the breakpoint is hit and inspect the scope, which I will demonstrate here as well. Okay, so we have 4 topics here. I will show you how to install Vim. I will show you how to configure it for the first time, starting from scratch. I will show you how you can manage your plugins, because the standard way of downloading it, unzipping it, and putting the correct files into the correct folders is quite messy. There's a better way to do it. And if time is left, I will show how you can use Vim for pair programming with Tmux. Okay, installing Vim is pretty simple. This is a script that I always execute whenever I set up a new server for my web project, or when I reinstall my own system. Just clone the source. The important bit is here, this enable Python interpreter part, which you will need because the Python mode plugin is written in Python, and so Vim has to be compiled with Python being enabled. And yeah, I used to install it into my home opt-vim folder, so I don't disturb any other users on the system, and that's it basically. And when you've done that, you can check if everything has worked by just typing vim --" version, and you will get a lot of stuff. And you should search for the +Python flag. It will tell you that it has actually been compiled with Python support. Sometimes it goes wrong, and when there's -Python, you know that you did something wrong and you should try again. Yeah, so that's installing Vim. It should take around 5 to 8 minutes or so. Your first .vimrc file. So when you start using Vim, people usually recommend or advise you to start from scratch. Don't take a fully blown Vim file from some hardcore hacker or so. There's so much stuff inside, you will get lost. Better start from scratch and whenever you feel that, oh, I want to do this, how can I do this? Just Google for it, go to the Vim IRC channel. There are super many, super smart people inside, and they are extremely helpful. Whenever I ask a question, I get an answer within 2 minutes. Vimbits.com is a pretty cool website where it's like Hacker News. People can post their snippets, and people can upvote and downvote it. So it's like every month or so, I just go there and see what's hot and what's bubbling on top. And you usually can find lots of crazy ideas you would never think of yourself. And I can only advise you to save your .vimrc file on your own .files repository on GitHub. Many programmers do that, and it's a great way to get inspiration. Just like, for example, I was talking to him right now, and and he was showing me some great tricks that I didn't know about, and I immediately asked him, "Is your .vimrc file on GitHub?" And he's like, "Yes, of course." So I know what I'm going to do when I'm home today. Yeah, so let's do it. I just deleted my own .vimrc file and created a new one. So when you start Vim for the first time, it will look like crap. It looks just like the terminal. It doesn't really look like an editor. So let's try to make this thing beautiful and look like an IDE. The first thing I usually do is I put this buff write post thing here, so I don't have to close and reopen the file all the time when I do changes. From now on, when I save, the file will be reloaded. It's like doing source on the terminal for when you change your bash rc file, you do source bash rc, and then the changes will happen. So now we will do the same when we save. The standard behavior of the clipboard is something that I never really understand. So when you do clipboard equals unnamed, it's basically the way you would expect it to be with any other editor. So when you copy something from a website, you can just paste it into Vim, and when you select and copy something inside of Vim, you can just paste it somewhere else, which wouldn't work right away. Then you can enable the mouse. So now when I press the Option key, I can use the mouse cursor to do what the mouse cursor is supposed to do. And this backspace equals 2 is quite useful because the standard behavior of the backspace key is a bit weird. I don't actually know what it does normally. Maybe somebody here can explain it to me. So when oh shit. Sorry. I will comment this out and save again. So now, let's say I'm typing something, and then I'm typing something more, and I want to press the backspace key. Oh, now it works. Okay, usually maybe some other settings have fixed this behavior as well, but usually when I try to use the backspace key, it just stops. There is some text in the line, I'm in insert mode, and I'm pressing backspace, but it just stops. I don't know why this happens. And this setting, this BS bullshit equals 2, will will turn the backspace key into a real backspace key. I like to remap my map leader key. The map leader key is a special key because the keyboard is so full with shortcuts already that they ran out of keys. So the map leader key gives you the possibility to bind another full set of keyboard keys because when you press the map leader key, Vim will wait for 1 second and see if you press any other keys. So suddenly we can press comma and something else to have even more places to bind stuff to. Then, okay, this is something that I cannot demonstrate right now because the color scheme is not installed. Saving, as you have seen, I usually you have to type colon W to save. I don't like that. It's like I was using IDEs for so long, I just have the habit of typing and pressing Control S for save. Okay, I can press Control S here in Vim, but I remapped it to Control Z, and now it's already in my muscle memory again. So from now on, with these settings, in whatever mode I am, I can just press Control Z and it will save. Very convenient. The same thing is true for quit. Usually you would have to type :Q for quitting. I don't like that, so I like leader E for quitting. It's much faster to me. But this is the reason why you should start from scratch, because you will probably have different ideas of where all these bindings should be for yourself. Okay, you can have tabs and splits in Vim, and you want to be able to easily navigate between them. So let me demonstrate that. When you create new tabs, It's like this, it's just tabs, very normal. But the standard way to navigate is like pressing Control W and then one of the movement keys. For tabs, I prefer to press the leader key and then N for going left and M for going right. So the leader key, I put it on comma, and M and N is just all next to each other, so it allows me to switch between tabs very fast. The same is true for splits. So when I have this horizontal split here, you would have to press Control W J for going downwards into the bottom split. I don't see why I should press two keys, so I remapped it so that I can just press Control J for going down, or Control K for going up. Or if you have a vertical split, you can press Control H and L to go left and right. So it's basically just like moving around the cursor. Just you press the Control key, then you will be moving around the splits. So very convenient. Okay, yeah, here's a very useful thing that you will probably use when you develop with Python, because it's encouraged to have all the imports sorted alphabetically. And Vim users will always do this because it's so easy. I just bound it to leader S, and I can just select a block of code, press leader S, and it will be sorted alphabetically. Very nice. Oh yes, this one is cool. I found this on vimbits.com. I can select a block of code and use the greater than and less than signs to move the whole block of code. Usually, you can easily do this with Vim anyways, but it will lose its selection. So with this snippet, it will remain its selection, so you can press it multiple times. Yeah. Okay. This one, I cannot demonstrate it right now, but it will show trailing white space. Usually you don't want to have trailing white space in your code because, I don't know, when you submit a patch to an open source project, and most people will have a script that deletes all white space when they save. And when you inserted some stupid white space and the next person is editing the same file, you will end up with lots of diffs where you didn't actually do anything. It's just because the other person automatically deleted your stupid white space. So just make sure you never insert any unwanted white space. And this line here will make sure that it's big fat red block showing you here's white space, delete this. Color schemes can be installed easily. I have all this file is on GitHub, so if you want to start from scratch, you can clone this repository and do the same thing as well. Sometimes you will find comments here, like this one. This will explain how you do actually install the color scheme. So it's just create a .vim/colors folder, go inside that folder, and then download this wombat color scheme, and there you go. Syntax highlighting. This is something that will not work when I save, so I have to restart this file. And now we have syntax highlighting, so Vim knows its own syntax for its own configuration file. And here are a bunch of settings for, now we are getting into the area of making this more look like an IDE. So now we have column numbers and the 80 characters line. Usually you don't want to write your Python scripts longer than 80 characters. So there's a very subtle line here. I don't know if you can see it. It's a little bit darker. Thanks. And this one is pretty cool. When you write a docstring, for example, and maybe you don't want to care about wrapping it correctly, and you are writing over the 80 characters line. After that, just point the cursor somewhere into that block and press Q. Huh? Why doesn't it work? I'm confused. Okay, I entered. Awesome. Okay, but why does this happen? Because I didn't save. Ah, yeah. Okay. Okay, let's try that again. Press Q, and it wraps the block of text accordingly so that nothing goes over that line. It's not always useful because, like, when you're using Markdown or restructured text, and you have, for example, bullet lists, it doesn't really know that the bullet lists belong under each, like, hard to explain. Sorry. So it's like when you have bullets lists like this, and then this, and you press Q, it will destroy your bullet list and put everything into one line. So don't use it all the time, but sometimes it can be quite useful. Undo history of 700, yeah, something that I like. For Python, you don't want to use tabs, you want to use spaces, and you want to indent by 4. This one is for when you do use regular expressions for search that they are case insensitive. Ah, come on. This one is a bit tricky. I don't know if everybody needs this. Vim creates a lot of swap files and backup files when you save, and I like to use file system watchers so that whenever I save, all my tests get executed immediately in another terminal window. And the standard behavior seems to be that it creates 3 or 4 file system events, and my tests get executed 3 or 4 times in a row, which sucks. So with these 3 settings, I got to fix this, and when you save, it's actually just 1 file system event. Okay, so that is about the Vim RC. Now we'll talk about some plugins that will introduce all this IDE stuff that I want to have. It's 4 plugins. I won't say much about them right now. I will just show you how they look like. Oh yeah, when you want to work with plugins with Vim, the standard way is you have to download a zip file or a tarball, and you have to unpack it, and you have to install it into the .vim folder, and then there can be several different subfolders. There can be an FT plugin folder, there can be a syntax folder, and each plugin, more complex plugins, will have so many files that you have to read the README, and it will tell you like copy this file into that folder and this file into that folder, and it's a big, huge mess. And especially when you want to get rid of that plugin later on, you can't remember which files did belong to that plugin and in which folders are they. So it's a mess. Use Pathogen instead. It's very easy to install. You have to create this autoload folder and a bundle folder. Then download the pathogen file, and that's it. And insert this call pathogen infect setting here, and you are good to go. From now on, you can install plugins by just unpacking them into the bundle folder. So for example, if we want to install Vim Powerline, we will go into the bundle folder, and we will just clone the whole Powerline repository. And usually Vim repositories of Vim plugins on GitHub are created in a way that the root folder has the files all in the correct folder. So you can just clone the thing into the bundle folder and it will work. Okay. So here's a setting for Vim Powerline. You will see when I demonstrate it. Just a second. Control P is a plugin for quickly navigating through files and opening files. And Python mode is a very, very great project. I think it's a wrapper around several other Vim plugins that deal with Python and make Vim more like a Python IDE. So it's much easier to just install this one plugin than several others. Okay, this one is some stuff. Okay, and Python folding allows you to collapse and expand your whole code. So now that I have installed these 4 plugins, let's go to some test repository. So I've created a stupid little demo project here, Python project. So the first thing we can see, we have syntax highlighting. It looks like Python code. It looks nice. Yeah, the folding plugin. Now I can use F to fold and unfold blocks of code, or I can use capital F to fold everything, which is quite handy if the file is a bit long. So I don't want to scroll down and then press Control D, Control D, Control D to go down. I just fold everything and maybe do a search for the function name, and I will reach the code that I want to work on quickly. Yeah. Yeah, then you should use my version. I don't know, it just works. I never have problems with the doc strings. Yeah, when I point the cursor here and press F, it will only, okay, I don't have a class in the syntax, but if you would point the cursor at the class definition and press F, it will collapse the whole class.
It's got that handy feature that it tells you if your functions are too long.
Yeah. Functions are too long.
It's only got 3 lines, but it's too long.
Okay. Yeah, There is I think PyLint or PyFlag or so has a feature of telling you that the function is too complex. If you have too many nested if and else things, it will say this function is too complex. And usually those functions are also too long. Okay, one thing about rope deals with all this go to definition stuff and code completion stuff. When you use it for the first time, you should execute rope open project, and this will create a .rope project folder which contains a config file, and in that config file you will find a line about Python paths, and here I would insert the paths to my virtual environment. For example, when I'm working on Django project, I would insert the path to the virtual environment of that Django project, so that Python rope actually knows where Django is. Otherwise, like code completion wouldn't work, right? Yeah. So let's try this. No, we will try this later. So static code analysis. When I'm doing stuff like this, it will open a Quickfix window down here, and it will tell me that I have just inserted invalid syntax, very useful. Or, for example, here, it will tell me there's a variable that is never used. Or, for example, if I import something that I never use, it will tell me there's an import that is never used. And when I go down into this Quickfix window, I can navigate through these items. And when I press Enter, it will jump to the actual line that has the error, and so I can quickly fix this error, go down to the quick fix window, jump up here, fix this error as well, and then I'm good to go. Yeah, code completion, very obvious. So let's say I know there's a method that starts with L, and I press Control Space. It will give me all options that it guesses. It usually also assumes some Python built-in functions. It assumes variables that I have defined in this module before, or it assumes functions that I have imported by using the star import, for example. Okay, now Control P is the other plugin that deals with opening files. So when I press Control P, it gives me a list of all files in the project, and it has some fuzzy file pattern matching logic or whatever. So when I know, okay, I want to open this file that is called something with U, utils or something, I just press U. It narrows down the results to everything that has a U inside, or maybe everything that has an R. O, rope, okay, config, rope, config, there I am, right? So you can even just type down parts of the paths, like maybe you know some folder names and you know some parts of the file name, so you just type down some parts of the folder name and some parts of the file name, and you will get the file. So let's open utils in a new tab, for example. When you press Control T, it will open a new tab, whereas when you press Control V, it will open a new vertical split. What else do we have? Oh yeah, jump to definition. Let's assume I want to use the URL join method, and I forgot the possible parameters to this method, so I can just press Control G, and it will jump to my Python installation and look up the URL join method. So I can just have a look at the method declaration and implementation, and I can see, allow fragments, that was the name, and I can read the doc string and find out what it does. Yeah, last but not least, debugging. By pressing leader B, I can insert breakpoints, and I think it will also automatically save the file. Not sure, maybe it doesn't. And now I will open another terminal window and execute this demo project, and it will stop at the breakpoint. And you can get this by just doing pip install or easy install IPython and easy install IPDB. Is extremely useful. IPython and IPDB will give you color, some syntax highlighting here. It will give you tab completion. So to get started, you should just type question mark. There are the few commands that are available. It looks like a huge list, but most of them are duplicates, like A and alias is the same. And so you can just press question mark A, or you will get an example what A does. So some useful commands are L to give you a little bit more context around the line we are currently on. When you press it several times, it will go down. You can say, show me line 10 to 40, for example, if you want to go more up. N stands for next. what else can we do? BT, backtrace, very cool. It will show us that we are actually here in this line, in this file, in this function, and we came from here, from this file, this function, from this line. So maybe you will realize that, okay, the bug isn't actually here, it's up here. When you use BT for backtrace, maybe you will realize that something is fishy up here. So you can just use U and you will go up the backtrace. So now you can see that now we are in the demo file. So it jumped up here and we are now in the one frame above the in the backtrace. And you can use args to inspect the currently available variables and the current scope. So oh, what did I do? That was not good. Sorry. So args to inspect the variables, and I mean this is just a Python interpreter. You can type anything that is a valid Python command. For example, type data. What type was data? Oh, it's a dictionary. So cool. Then I can press dot and press tab twice, and it will give me all options that the dictionary has. So I remember there was something about keys to get the keys. So oh yes, keys. There it is. And yeah, so this, I mean, if you are a Python beginner, this is the best way to actually learn Python. Put breakpoints into your code, inspect all the stuff, and play around and see what the Python built-ins and all the data types have to offer. All right, that's how I use Vim as a Python IDE. I think that's pretty good already. Last thing, I think a few minutes are left. I will talk about how you can, if you are still not convinced why you should use a terminal editor. Oh, come on. This will take just 2 minutes. If you're still not convinced, I'm in a situation that my team is spread all over the world. So the person that I work with the most is sitting in Germany. I'm sitting in Singapore. And usually we want to do pair programming, right? He has a question, I have a question, he has a bug, and he doesn't know how to solve it, and then I usually want to look at his code. And what we did all the time until recently is we start Skype and we do Skype screen sharing, and then it crashes. So we switch over to TeamViewer and try that, and it's super slow and laggy. Whatever I'd say, I'm like saying and talking quickly and jumping through the code, and whatever I'd say, he will see it 10 seconds later or 5 seconds later, and it's just big brain fuck. It's not fun, right? So there's this tool called Remax. It's some wrapper around Tmux, and I can start a Remax session by just typing Remax, as I did just now, and the other person, I will set up port forwarding in my router at home to port 22, and I will give the other person my IP, and so the other person will be able to do SSH pair progger at my IP. So I created a new user with lots of restrictions, so this person is not able to delete my home folder or something. Oh, why does this not work now? Hmm? Oh yes, you are correct, thanks. Pair progger. Okay. Okay, and then the person can type Remax attach. And now he will see what I see, and I will see how big his screen is or how small. So I will scold him and say, hey, please resize your terminal. Yeah, and now we can basically, whatever I type here will be done on the other side as well. So we can start using Vim, and we can start implementing our Python code together. So I can type, and he can take over, and he can type again. He can type as well. Pretty cool. And since this is only some bytes of text being sent over the wire, this is absolutely fast and instantaneous. All right. Where's my keynote thing?
Which file are you editing? Are you editing the one?
Thank you so much. Questions?
Which file are you editing when you're doing pair programming? Is it opening the file local on your system?
Yeah, it's on my system. He's doing SSH into my machine, and then he's attaching to the Remax session, and we are working on exactly the same file. Yeah. Questions?
So what was power line?
Oh yes, sorry.
I assume it's that.
No. This is Tmux. This is something that I have configured my Tmux to do. Power line is this thing below here. So yeah, it shows you. It gives you a graphical feedback. If I'm in insert mode, it's blue. If I'm in select mode, it's orange. Yeah, it's just helpful. Usually it's like when I come back from lunch break, I can't remember, oh, where did I left it? Was I in insert mode or was I in select mode? So I always press Control C to go, or press Escape to go back into the other mode. But maybe I just want to be in insert mode and I come back, oh, I'm in insert mode. I can go on typing.
I have some of the things that you've got installed, but I don't have some of the other cool things you've got. Where are you going to share all of this information?
Yeah, I have it on my GitHub repository.
Very long URL. Let me just.
GitHub, that's GitHub/mbroch, and then you will find my Vim as a Python IDE talk, and yeah.
Is your dot files in there?
No, my dot files is a different repository. But
Same user account though?
yeah, of course. Yeah, I will export them as PDF and upload. What is the best service to upload and share slides? SlideShare? Speaker Deck? No.
It's implemented by the GitHub guys.
Okay, Speaker Deck. Pardon? GitHub? The PDF, you mean?
Yeah, just check it out GitHub.
Okay, yeah, I will do that as well. Pardon? No. Hey, I just started using Vim last year. I still have to get deeper, you know. Maybe next year I will give a talk about creating slides with LaTeX. Okay.
Somebody actually bought that. We actually bought GitHub. Oh, when did I really you turned up there? Oh, any last questions? If not, thank you very much, Martin.